Hello, and thanks for joining us for this month's edition of The Scope of Things, a no-nonsense look at the realities and enigmas of clinical research, based on those closest to the action who aim for great and, if need be, are willing to shake things up. I'm Deborah Borfitz, Senior Science Writer for Clinical Research News. In today's episode, I'll be speaking with Micah Lieberman and Marina Filshtinsky, MD, co-founders of ClinEco, the world's first clinical trials ecosystem and marketplace. Micah and Marina have been running Cambridge Health Tech Institute's premier Summit for Clinical Ops Executives, also known as SCOPE, for more than a decade now. And as they recently shared with me, that is where the idea for the web-based platform was born. I am so happy to have the two of you on the show today.
Right on. Thank you, Deb. We're happy to be here. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, you literally just launched ClinEco as a B2B platform for clinical trial sponsors to connect and learn about and ultimately select their would-be business partners. And the whole concept is so ridiculously intuitive that one has to wonder why something like this didn't exist sooner, given all the silos and inefficiencies that we've been talking about for really decades now. So I think listeners would be interested in knowing why now and why the two of you.
Yeah. Well, Deb, thanks again. We're so happy to be here. I appreciate the question. I'll start. Marina, Marina and I both have been talking about this so much, we could probably both answer all of these questions. So we'll jump back and forth. So
sounds great.
It does seem intuitive. It does seem obvious. I want to give Marina some credit too, is we kind of, first of all, ClinEco.io is the platform website. We are in alpha, quickly moving to beta. So you're basically, Marina and I, have been running Scope, as a lot of people know, for more than 14 years. Well-established, vibrant event, great community. And we, kind of our team at CHI, or Cambridge Innovation Institute, CII, being in the middle of that ecosystem, we realized that there's a community of clinical trial innovators and the folks that are in the trenches of trials, who are designing, managing trials throughout the world. And they are integrating technology, services, people, and patients all together, all successfully to execute these trials. Mm-hmm. And Scope we're not an association, but it's kind of over the years, through the loyalty of the members, the speakers and the sponsors and all the attendees, little by little, it's kind of become a gathering place, kind of the annual all thing, if we're Vikings, I guess, sitting at the middle of the hub. And Marina and I, being the leaders of that, were kind of really well positioned to help each of these stakeholders kind of know each other, meet each other, and improve their decision-making on identification and selection of partners. And that's more than just vendors, right? It's a CRO is a buyer and a seller, right? So it's really hard. It's a big ecosystem, a lot of players. There's people who change jobs, they change therapeutic areas, and there's a never-ending need to connect and build to enable yourself, your company, to execute that trial. And it's a big group. So we were just kind of well-positioned. And Marina, I want to give Marina credit. She said, we need to do this. And if not us, then who? Yeah, and that takes some guts. Marina, you should jump in too.
Thank you, Micah. I wanted to add that with COVID happening, with the pandemic, it accelerated both the adoption and interest in new technologies, as well as new ways to run the trials. Mm-hmm. We are talking about decentralized and hybrid trials. And with all these transformations, the vendor base is changing and expanding rapidly. And there are no innovative, easy ways to find new partners. So we realized that although this is a vibrant community, a formalized marketplace didn't exist to date. With such a variety of stakeholders, they would highly benefit from a marketplace or matchmaking place to better find solutions and the vendors that provide them.
Yeah. And also one thing, Deb, you said it earlier. You said something that is intuitive, which is like, well, I think we're used to doing this, right? In our day-to-day lives for very complicated transactions with refinancing homes, buying cars. Like we do this as buyers, as consumers. and more it's becoming an expectation. But obviously, healthcare, clinical trials, some of the more complicated places that are in great need of this. I think sometimes people want it, but not everybody necessarily wants to be the one to do it. So yeah.
The hard work.
Yeah.
Okay, to get going, it might be helpful to paint a picture of kind of what is currently and what will be when ClinEco is fully functioning in terms of how a study sponsor relates to a CRO or a technology service provider. Micah, can you take a shot at giving us a hypothetical example?
Okay. So I think this is a long answer, because what you're asking, Deb, is what we want you to ask. Really, this is great, because you're basically saying, what? How does this work? Because we're in words, we're trying to describe something, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So obviously, we gradually will have everybody I'll just have to say, go to clineco.io, co.io, but we're in alpha, and it's there, but it's going to get prettier and prettier, and we're going to iterate as we learn. So okay, let me start with kind of my long answer. I want to start with clinical trials, and then I want to get into the market, and then I want to give an example from kind of the pharma side, whether they're a big pharma or a biotech, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I'll kind of try to go to a second broad kind of case study example from my persona, which is kind of a clinical trial service provider. That could be a CRO, it could be a small technology kind of eCOA vendor, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think, okay, starting at the top, thinking big, clinical trials, we all know, are unique. As I said, this is a different type of marketplace, a different market network. And trials sit at the intersection of science, healthcare, technology, business, and people. Let's not forget that still ultimately you have individuals making decisions. And for these companies that research and develop new therapies that improve the lives and the standard of care, navigating the ecosystem, this entire clinical research ecosystem, it can be overwhelming, even for experts. Back to my example of people that have been doing it for a long time, they change jobs. They leave from kind of being a biz ops person now, they leave the data side and they have the analytics chops, and then they're like, you know what, we need you to run this whole group. Or things change. You got some new molecules in development. All of a sudden, your therapeutic reach is expanded, right? You're always needing new resources, and there's always change. Okay, so even those clinical development leaders specializing in a variety of therapeutic areas from top 25 pharma or from smaller biotechs that maybe don't have the legacy systems, right? Mm-hmm. They can struggle to harness or to choose the myriad software, different data management systems, boutique systems, patient recruitment kind of providers, et cetera. There's so many solutions and services that can improve their trial execution and compliance. And they have sometimes their set of vendors. These are the people, but you know what? Those lists grow stale. The innovators sometimes are like, you know what? I need somebody new. I need something new to add. I need another bullet in my belt. Mm-hmm. I need to do, and it's not easy. So that's big picture. Then secondarily, you go to a second level, which is saying, okay, things are changing. Things are always moving. We need to stay ahead of the curve. We need to stay up with what's happening. We need to understand who the innovators are. We need to add that skill set to that capability to our capabilities. Mm-hmm. Then you say, okay, well, how big is this swimming pool we're talking about? Well, if you look at the global CRO market, and then even just take eClinical software, these are immense markets. I wrote down some numbers, but I don't want to even mention them because it's just dollar figures, but they're enormous. And if you look at that, it's not just because trials are expensive, it's because there are a lot of players. And of course, there are some key bigger players that have, there's been a lot of mergers and acquisitions and kind of happening in this, but it's a complicated market to navigate if you're trying to build out those capabilities. Okay, so you have to navigate this immense marketplace, and to do that on your own, I think, is fairly impossible. And I also think your hands are a little bit tied if you go into it just saying, I will accept my set of vendors that 18 years ago were on that list of approved vendors. They're probably awesome, but they've changed. They've taken on new capabilities. The CROs have bought other capabilities. you have to actually stay up on this, even if you are not at that very moment shopping. Okay. So I think it's hard. So that's where ClinEco comes in, as the clinical leaders join from the sponsors, the CROs, the technology service providers, the site networks, and the academic institutions, whoever you are, you all benefit by being able to identify opportunities to partner on a broader level, right?
Yeah.
You need to do that. Everybody needs each other to move forward. So that's that. I told you this was a long answer. Sorry. So that's the big picture. And I'm probably saying stuff that everybody knows and is nodding their head. Okay. So let's get into ClinEco. It's the platform itself.
Okay.
So let me give you an example from the sponsor side. So as a sponsor or a buyer of a clinical trial service, you can discover and compare, you can engage and select, and you can exchange and finalize. And what that means is discovering and comparing. Okay. Discover and compare vendors for your specific therapeutic area, your region, or your trial workflow with advanced search capabilities. So our platform will enable you as a user to filter, find, and understand what others are using to select promising new solutions. So you can go into the platform, we have it structured, so you can find who is doing what, and you could set up parameters. And we all know search. We have a very, very complex search engine, and we have broken it down through great detail through different trial services, categories, et cetera, regions, capabilities. So discover and compare different vendors in a space side by side. Okay. Then secondarily, you can engage whether you're coming from a big pharma or a small biotech, then you can engage and select stage 2. You can engage directly with those companies that you've discovered on the platform. Maybe your company knows them, but you don't know who at your company's been talking to who at that company, whatever. Sometimes, that happens. Mm-hmm. So you can then engage directly with these companies through direct messaging. And that goes beyond just hello, that we have streamlined forms kind of pre-filled out that you can add checkboxes to ask the most common questions, right? And you can avoid the hassle of trying to navigate each company's marketing and sales processes. A lot of this stuff is still happening through Google search, to be honest. It really is. So we're just trying to bring that into one place. So you got discover and compare, then you can engage and select. And in our platform, we do have the ability to streamline RFIs and RFPs, et cetera. But it's engaging and selecting, and exchanging and finalize is that third component where you streamline that process. You've gotten beyond the kind of the initial dating, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to streamline the procurement purchase process with secure and centralized document exchange, a repository of these documents, see who's doing what within your own group, and you have a dashboard. And that dashboard is visible to you and your colleagues at your group. So some of that institutional knowledge stays within the group because people leave. They don't know that same vendor has been inside of your company 6 months earlier. All of that stuff happens. So we're just trying to streamline that. And the dashboard includes NDAs, RFIs, RFPs, and more. And in some cases, you might be a big pharma and you might say, you know what, we have a lot of internal workflow. We don't need to replace your workflow. That's fine. But if you're a biotech, sometimes you don't have legacy systems. You want to use us? Great. Use our stuff. We got these templates. We got it all there. So that is the big example from the sponsor side. I knew this would be a long answer. I'm sorry, Deb. I love to talk about this.
Your enthusiasm we're hearing.
Okay. And then on one more example, on the vendor side. And, you could be a CRO. You could be a small e-clinical software company. Let's just say you are providing a service to a sponsor organization. It's a very crowded marketplace in general. You want to be able to highlight and spotlight yourself, your company, your capabilities. Number 2, you want to be able to connect and ideally win with those pharma and biotech companies, device companies, whatever. And then just like with those pharma companies and sponsor companies, you want to be able to exchange and finalize and streamline that. So in this case, highlighted, spotlight, I think that sounds pretty obvious, right? You want to highlight your unique offerings by going into ClinEco.io, claiming your company profile, and differentiating your profile with you have a profile. You have to tell people who you are, what you are, and our profiles are very rich. It's much more than here's our company logo, here's our website. No, it goes very deep, and it allows the people on the other side from the pharma or the biotech company to really see a lot about you. It saves time. You might not be the right fit. You don't want to waste your time either. So let's get specific. What can you do? What can't you do? So highlight and spotlight your company. Then secondarily, connect and win. You want to be able to have that engagement with prospective buyers. And you can utilize our direct messaging and quickly build those relationships. And I think that initial being highlighted and being found is really hard for a lot of these vendors. So we want to enable that. And again, through a complex set of search and profiles where it is very rich. And then same with the pharma companies, that third component, exchanging and finalizing, streamline that process through document exchange. You can take it as far as you want. It may be that we at ClinEco enable you to say, you know what? I think we like each other. I think we want to go on a date. Great. You could do it through ClinEco or you could take it offline. But we hope that a lot of those steps that happen stay inside of the platform so that your colleagues also see that history, see that institutional knowledge, can share key learnings it becomes richer over time. It becomes more valuable over time. So anyways, I hope I mean, your question was the main one was what the hell is this and how the hell does it work? Right. So yeah.
You're going. That's good. That's good. Yeah. It's a busy little ecosystem with lots of little neighborhoods sort of forming over time is what it sounds like, is what I'm envisioning as you're speaking.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And Marina, I know, Marina, I left out so much. There's so much more there, but I just tried to get to those core elements.
You did great.
But I think the overriding idea here is to sort of once and for all start erasing some of the costly but somewhat standard inefficiencies in conducting clinical trials. So Marina, maybe you could talk a little bit about the evidence we may point to that would suggest that ClinEco is going to reduce the cost and the speed of studies based on what's eating up budgets now, or maybe what has worked in other industries facing similar sorts of disconnects between various players and their would-be partners.
Great question, Deb. Thank you. So you're right. The process of identifying, validating, and contracting vendors and partners for clinical trials is a well-known bottleneck. The process is time-consuming, labor-intensive, inefficient, and expensive. First, you need to identify and find your potential partner that you need for your specific need, and or for like an innovative solution in your trial. Then the long qualification process starts, and it involves the initial request for information, a formal request for proposal, and a full qualification assessment, then contracting phase, and so on. A study for the Staff Center for the Study of Drug Development found that the process takes 4 to 6 months on average, and can be even longer. We are positive that our platform will help to streamline the process, especially its initial steps, and will help save time and money. Some of our industry advisors, for instance, think that with our platform and its capabilities, it's possible to skip the RFI step and go straight to RFP. Also, the companies can easily exchange RFIs and RFPs via the platform. We did study other industries, and some technology experts think that the next 10 years will be all about market networks. We know that, for instance, freight industry or oil and gas industry have very functional, very large marketplaces. And we're trying to study them and learn from their mistakes and solutions. A market network, in this case, would be a platform that combines elements of a multi-sided marketplace and network
Mhm.
and some workflow solutions. And all three of these pillars are applicable to and present at ClinEco. We are building this B2B vertical marketplace, and we know that vertical marketplaces are challenging. We are up to the challenge, fingers crossed, exciting and scary at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I want to add something to what Marina said, because I think in the beginning, I think some of these terms are interchangeable, but I think there's a key element, which is a marketplace versus a market network. I think a market network is richer. And I think it's more applicable to the clinical trials industry. Because way back in our conversation, 18 minutes ago, we talked about the people component, Deb, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A component of this is not only purely a marketplace. It's not Amazon. I'm shopping for some shoes. These are very complex services, and people are involved, and trust is involved, right?
Yeah.
So the market network has a component of it, which is also building the community itself. And Marina and I are strong with that. We're a part of a community. We're proud to be a part of it. We're grateful for it. We're a tiny piece of it. We hope to be a bigger piece of it. But the market network, a big part of that is the community component, which feeds the power of that. You want to, so I just want to say a market network to me is much richer than just a marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, here's a related question. So what is the crossover between ClinEco and the scope events? Is there going to be some deliberate crossover there?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. And I think, there's obviously naturally going to be crossover, because look who's talking to you, right? So, but let me tell you officially, so Cambridge Innovation Institute, CII, mm-hmm. Cambridge Health Tech Institute, CHI. So that's our owner, that's our boss, right? And we're a small team though. Mm-hmm. And it's a really friendly kind of cohesive group of us. And that's who owns Scope, and they own ClinEco, but they're different companies. So I think, so ClinEco is a wholly owned subsidiary of CII, Cambridge Innovation Institute. So ClinEco and Scope, they each have their own budgets, their own goals, their own people. So they're separate entities. Mm-hmm. However, there is definitely, obviously, a lot of synergy there, and we're really working in the same space. So Scope will definitely be serving its community, building its community, growing, and it will do its thing. ClinEco, likewise. However, I do think that over time that relationship will grow. So there's already, if you look at ClinEco and its foundation stone of who those people are and what space they're working in, those are people we know from Scope, right? Yeah.
How you avoid that,
right? And these are the people who have been telling us their problems for more than a decade. Like, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. Yeah. So I think there is synergy there, and we're looking forward to kind of working with our friends and contacts at Scope on this new project. And if you look at our advisory board, you'll recognize faces. So long answer, totally separate companies, separate budgets, all of that stuff. However, absolutely synergistic. Absolutely.
Right. And of course, it takes a team to build this village. So tell me a little bit about who has been working behind the scenes to help make ClinEco a reality beyond you and Marina, obviously.
Well, I was going to say Marina first and foremost. Then
all right,
me,
Marina and Micah. We'll do it in that order.
Yeah, it's funny. We have a really good. This is a technology company, right? It is a platform, and as you know, with technology, it's going to keep going. Like what we have in Alpha right now is beautiful. It's amazing. If you ask me what it's going to look like in a year, I think it's going to look different. I think it's going to keep going. So we have a really strong team of engineers, of course. We have amazing leadership, and we have backing from CII in the form of, our boss, Philip School, who's the founder and president of CII, and Ben Lakin, who's the VP of Innovation. Mm-hmm. And they've been helpful because this is a business startup, right?
Right.
And they've helped us. They have great networks, and they've also given us kind of the freedom to do it, the freedom to operate, man. So their support has kind of allowed this to happen. But yeah, I had to mention Marina first. I mean, it's really hard to do this, to say, we're going to do this, we're going to start it. But at the same time, this is not of interest to the community out there, but maybe it is. At the same time, I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to be a dad. I'm still going to be a husband. I'm still like, this is all
life happens still. Yeah.
All encompassing. Yeah. But keep going, Marina. You probably want to mention some great people too.
I want to mention you, Micah.
Oh, thank you, Marina.
And Micah is the spirit of Scope, and he is a VP of community at ClinEco. And I think he will be like one of the main people to grow this community even further.
Thank you.
And personality alone. Yeah.
Yeah. But Marina, let's mention some of our, because we have advisors and they're all amazing. We should mention them because they're working advisors. I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to hear about the advisors.
So it's kind of a short laundry list, and there's more, but I think what's interesting about them, they're different. Some of them, and again, as you know, in this industry, Deb, everybody's worked with everybody. Yeah. You might currently be at Pfizer, but you've been at a CRO, you've been at a startup, you've been at a biotech, or you've left the biotech for the pharma, or you've all worked together at Merck, Wyeth, IQV, wherever. Everybody's done a lot of different things. So these folks, we have purposely brought in a group of people that are wicked smart, to use a Boston term, and they have a lot of experience and they have kind of diverse backgrounds. So Laura Whitmore, she's at Cerevel. She's with us. I mean, I think we talk to her every week. Kyle Holland, a lot of people know, he's the VP at AbbVie. He's an innovator. He's been involved with Scope forever, and he was kind of early on one of our kind of helped us develop some of our personas. Right. Chris Sarajian, he is now at ClinOne. He's been involved in all kinds of startups and bigger companies. He really knows marketing and he knows this space. Greg Jewett, who is currently at BMS, he has a broader title, but he really knows the concepts of finding technology partners. He knows the procurement side as well as the innovation side. Adama Ibrahim from Novartis, definitely always pushing for digital solutions and innovation in clinical trials. Ying Zhang, who has been at many companies currently at Real Chemistry, she has a really good business sense. She's been involved in customer-facing business solutions, software, subscription models, everything. She is really a great resource for us. All these people are so busy, and we just nag them. We just call them.
Right, Mike.
Yeah. Stephanie Frazeo, who's at Pfizer. She is, again, we really talk about analytics with her. Analytics are going to be a big part of our business of how do we understand the market's behavior and pivot when and where. David Swanger, who came to us through Chris, he's a great marketing leader, and he is really working with us on the launch. April Lewis changed jobs recently. She's at ZS Associates. Early on, she was a big coach for us, and also I think her attitude was like, "Go, do it, just go." Marina, did I leave? I've left people out. I know I have.
Yeah, but it's a great list already.
Yeah, and we're hiring. We're hiring people full time. That's for sure. Customer onboarding, customer service. It's happening.
Yeah, the village is growing. So
it is.
Is there crossover between these advisory board people and the people that are doing the alpha testing, or is that a secret? I don't know. What can you tell me about those that are the initial group of users?
Yeah, Marina, you want to jump in?
Yes, they are definitely our initial users. And we call it pre-alpha even. Okay. They are all testing and playing with the platform and sending us their edits. So they are part of it.
Okay. Very good. And when will this sort of fledgling marketplace be fully open to everyone? Is there a date attached to that, or is it to be determined?
I would say it's TBD, but we are thinking late August, early September, after all the focus groups feedback is collected, analyzed. all the needed iterations, last minute iterations are made, then we will open the door for everyone.
Excellent. And that is not that far away. So yes, very much pending shortly.
Yeah.
And I know we sort of alluded to some of the key features of the platform, but it might be good to kind of go back over them again and make sure we didn't miss anything. I know we talked about templates a little bit. Obviously, the search engine's real big. There's, an inbox that I think can be somewhat exclusive to your company versus one that isn't. Speak to some of the features, if you would, just to maybe tick list them a little bit here for us.
So let me take this one.
Okay.
But Micah, please feel free to add.
Okay.
So first, we would like to kind of mention the profiles, and we have profile pages for each and every company on that platform, and the profiles are different. They actually designed based on the needs of the clinical trial roles. So if it's a sponsor company, the profile is very different from a vendor company or a site or a non-profit company. Mm-hmm. We have a strong search engine with great filters that are developed, very well researched and developed with the help of our advisors. And the filters are structured and they are targeting specifically clinical trial needs. We are providing in-app messaging. It's like a company inbox and personal inbox. So the early engagement is very easy via the platform. As Micah mentioned, we are providing templates and some document exchange and so-called company drive for advanced users. And for instance, a contracted partners list as well for advanced users. For everyone, we are providing a watch list similar to like a wish list or on a normal marketplace, like consumer-based marketplace. What else? What did I miss, Micah?
I think that's most. I think there's some stuff that is related to the streamlining of. We have names for it. Like, okay, so let's say you're a vendor or a CRO or you're a technology provider and you want to enrich your profile. You can kind of include the basics. There's a lot there. Some of this stuff is pulled from public data, but there's things that you can do to differentiate. You can add downloads. You can actually put your white papers up on your profile and label them. These are here for download. This is a capabilities deck. This is this. There's links to your leadership. And again, there's actual, like you could say, you know what? I want to list these 3 people because I want their faces front and center, and I want them to be able to be quickly contacted. So you can really differentiate yourself. You can have a very rich profile as a vendor or a CRO, which will help sponsors, which will help them understand who you are and maybe give them a chance to kind of think about it. And we want to allow that because it's hard to get yourself in front of these folks. Everybody's busy. So I think those downloads are there. That profile's rich. Marina mentioned it. I want to add those 2 things. And the other thing is, if you're a sponsor or if you're a biotech, pharma, device company, whatever, you can actually post a need to the community via we call it a looking for form. Hey, we're going to run a trial. We're going to need this at this time. And all of that's structured through a form. We have these drop downs and radio buttons, when are you doing it? What are you doing? What do you want to say? And that gets broadcast out to the community. So there's a way to be very targeted, but there's also, kind of something that allows you to post something broadly if you're willing to kind of put that fishing line out there. So those are some interesting things. And there's more coming that is in the works that we don't necessarily want to mention that are more like concierge level services, which we are going to build in over time. Okay. So there's going to be over time, we're going to be adding V1, V2, V3. It's kind of like iOS with your iPhone. I don't know what version we're on with our iOS 14 million. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Well, how will ClinEco be of greatest value to study sponsors when they're not actively looking for any sort of vendor? In other words, how does this marketplace keep churning along day after day after day?
Oh, yeah. That's a good segue from what I was just saying, right? Like let's say you're not actively searching. Let's say, Deb, you're a therapeutic kind of head, and you are not right now in need. All your trials are running smoothly. Your project teams, everything's going great. You still have stuff coming. So you might not have an immediate need, but the market is more, like I said, it's a market network. It's not just a marketplace. This market network allows you to still stay engaged and stay ahead or up on what's happening in this ecosystem, which is changing all the time.
Yeah.
You need to know what new vendors are there, who is doing what. And as this market gets richer and deeper and has a higher kind of a greater depth of coverage within each vertical, within each function, you will quickly be able to discern who's doing what, right? Yep. Beyond that, we are going to have a news feed. Obviously, Deb, I guarantee your articles will be there. Your work, your podcast will be there. Yeah. We're going to have news feeds that are related to clinical research, clinical trials, digital trials, all of that, right? That will be there. We also will be adding white papers beyond articles, and eventually we're going to be able, we're in a very unique position to populate and offer training. We'll eventually be able to integrate that. And remember, we have great relationships. We are partners with Barnett. Those folks out there, many of the people listening to this, at some point in their early mid-career, have taken certification courses and training with Barnett. So we want to be able to source our members. So there is potential for that. We already have that in mind. We just don't want to build it right now. We need to get other things going first. But that will be incredibly valuable to kind of keep this positive, virtuous circle of keeping you up to date, keeping you trained, allowing you to learn from others. We want to be able, there is a certain component of the community where you have, I don't want to say open source, but you do have the ability for people to share. And that's what Scope does, right? I mean, that's what we are able to do at Scope, is there's stuff that's pre-competitive that you can share with a vendor to vendor, and it helps everybody. So in the future, I really do see that becoming a key value and a key part of what is a market network beyond a marketplace. So that's important to mention. That's where we're heading.
And how do we, I want to segue to like the business model for this, because obviously you're talking a lot about how you can keep, members engaged on the platform, but it also has to stay operational. That costs money and that takes human capital as well. Tell me, just to end here, like what's the business model for this thing?
I think it's simple. It will be a subscription-based model. People are very familiar with it, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. Different price points for the pharma, the sponsor organizations being the buyers, and the CRO vendor tech companies being the sellers. So it's going to be a sliding scale for the vendors, according to your market cap, how big you are, right? Mm-hmm. And also sponsor orgs and sponsor users they'll be able to enjoy it and sign up as an individual. They don't have to sign up as a company if they're coming from a pharma company. We just want to make it easy to join. So the quick answer is it will be subscription-based, but in the beginning, it's free. We just got to get people there, get it working, and learn.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know for a fact that there is now significant buzz in the industry about ClinEco based on readership of the story announcing the planned launch and inquiries the two of you have been fielding since then. I hope to have you back here as guests on this podcast later this year to share some real world stories about how you're helping folks in the clinical trials industry connect the dots to one another. On behalf of all of them, thank you for building this, and thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I love you guys.
This has been so fun, and I want to pay you a quick compliment, Deb. I told you before we started recording that some of my family members read your article talking, and they are not in clinical research, and they loved your article. You're a really good writer, so we appreciate that too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for having us, Deb.
Thank you for being with me today. Appreciate the two of you so much. And as always, a big thank you to everyone out there for listening in. For more straight talk on studies involving humans, visit clinicalresearchnewsonline.com. And if you're a clinical research professional, we hope also to see you at our next Scope conference where we make things happen. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Deb. This was fun. This was really fun. Thank you.
Sure was.
Thank you.
And as always, a big thank you to everyone out there for listening in. If you like this conversation, it is only a glimpse of what you can expect from Scope Europe presenters and panelists. Please plan to join us on October 3rd and 4th in Barcelona, when clinical operations executives will be sharing best practices and discussing the new era of decentralized, analytics-driven, and patient-centric clinical trials. Save an additional 10% with the code PODCAST. For more information, visit scopesummiteurope.com. Bye for now.